Hi, I'm Barbara Jo Howard with Guildhall. Welcome to a conversation with Vera Wang and Pamela Fiori. Today we are here in the exhibition. The exhibition runs until October 12th, and it's called The Art of Fashion in the Hamptons and features some of the world's greatest designers. This is a wonderful opportunity for you to come right down and see these unbelievable designs right here in your own backyard. I'm at Guildhall with Stan Herman, co-curator of The Art of Fashion in the Hamptons. Stan, can you tell us a little bit about this exhibition?
Oh, I could tell you a lot about it. It was a labor of love. It was the first time 9 designers got together and actually did a thing with each other in tandem. They all are people, designers who live out here, who feel very special association with this gorgeous area. And when asked, they just jumped at the chance.
Can you quickly tell us who the 9 designers are?
I sure can. There's Tory Burch, there's Betsy Johnson, Donna Karan, Calvin Klein, Reed Krakoff, Ralph Lauren, Nicole Miller, Ellie Tahari, and the great Vera Wang.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome anytime.
I'm Ruth Appelhoff, the Executive Director of Guildhall, and it's always a pleasure to welcome our audiences, but I think especially today we have a very, very amazing treat for you, a conversation with Vera Wang and Pamela Fiori. In conjunction with The Art of Fashion in the Hamptons, we will be today viewing a wonderful video of Vera Wang's Spring 2010 collection, followed by Vera and Pamela in conversation on the stage. Amazing women, business women, and also fashion icons, fashion influencer, fashion leaders. Please welcome these 2 amazing women, and thank you.
I'll tell you a little bit about how this all started, and that was that Ruth Appelhoff came to me about a year ago and said, would I be involved in in doing this exhibition built around fashion in the Hamptons? And I said no, I really wasn't able to do it, but that I could happily give her names. And at the top of my list was a wonderful guy by the name of Stan Herman, who is sitting in the audience right there. Stan.
There he is.
And Stan had been the president of CFDA, Council of Fashion Designers of America, for a long time. Also is a designer in his own right. He is on QVC, and a household name there. And he said yes, but only if I would do it. So I said, okay, as long as I knew that Stan was going to be my partner in this little adventure, we'd do it. And we decided we would go to 9 designers, 9 prominent designers, all of whom were connected in the Hamptons. And Vera, of course, was one of them, very high on the list. So Vera said yes. Vera, one of the things I love about Vera is that she is one of the most generous people that I know. And aside from all of the talent that she has, she also happens to be a nice and funny and charming person. So I'm glad that she is here. Vera, tell us why you decided on the theme you did for the exhibition.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Pamela for asking me to be in the exhibition, as well as Stan. It was a tremendous honor to be included. And I have to say, as somebody who's been coming out here for longer than I care to admit, long time, we'll leave it at that. It was really very, very fitting for me, I think, at this point in my career, to be able to relate what I do to how I live. And I have loved the Hamptons for such a long time. It's a place where, for me, I can really relax, and I can pursue perhaps the more personal side of my life, which then of my family life, and then, of course, from there, that affects my work. So how I ended up choosing the topic of nature, and to me, you can't divide the two. They're one and the same when it comes to the Hamptons. And I work as a designer in an extremely organic manner, so that when I start a collection, I don't really just only sit and sketch. I play with fabric, I look at it, I see how it works or doesn't work, and what we make in our sample room may not even be what is eventually on the runway. We can start with a jacket and it may become a skirt. We can start with a top, it may become a t-shirt. We just don't know. And I think there's something about the Hamptons that is so organic and about nature and about this process that I really relate to. So that's why I chose nature. And then, in so doing, my husband, who has been working for 20 years on collages, we had a very favorite street in Southampton, which is where we lived, and it was Wyandanch. So somehow it just all came together in my creative thinking, and it's just a street we've always loved, and my late father loved, and it meant a great deal to us emotionally as well as artistically. So,
one of the things that's so interesting about choosing Arthur is that he is a businessman and he now has a whole new career.
He's been working on art in the Hamptons for 20 years, and he's taken portraits of our friends, pictures of their homes, collages of their swimming pools or their gardens or whatever, and I thought it was just kind of only fitting that he should be able to work with me on this project, which was really wonderful for both of us. So.
How long have you been married?
Been married for 20 years and known each other for 35.
Wow. I seem to remember this story, Vera, that you were sort of wondering when the actual nuptial was going to take place. Right. Do you want to tell that story?
Yes, it's a funny story. We met and we were introduced by a friend of mine who actually worked for Hearst, the parent company of Town & Country, and she worked at Harper's Bazaar, and she knew me and she introduced me to my present husband, my only husband, and we dated for about a year, and not even 10 months, and we decided it really wasn't right, or I decided it really wasn't right for me, so we stayed really good friends. How many of you have seen Harry Met Sally? The movie? Well, it was sort of that story. We were friends, and then we dated, and then we decided we weren't even friends anymore, but then we became friends again. And then in the end, we got married and had children. So it's a little bit that story, but we came back together 10 years later. I didn't just wait for him, and he didn't wait for me, but as things turned out 10 years later, we actually did meet again, and it was really the right moment. So, and he's a real East Ender. I mean, he just... he loves it out here, so.
And when you did get married, you were not married in a Vera Wang wedding gown.
No, I wasn't. Pamela, definitely not. It was a bit of a conundrum. I was working for Ralph Lauren, and you know, Ralph would never say that he does bridal gowns, I don't think, but he does do them. He does them for his staff. And he does have his rooms make dresses for people that he adores that work for him. And when it came to me, he didn't want to do my dress, so I don't know what that meant. But, and we're still really close friends, but I guess, you know, for me it was an awkward moment because I was one of his design directors, and yet if I didn't like the dress, I was going to have to wear it. And so we just, I think out of real love for each other, he just decided he'd stay away from my wedding gown, and I'd have to figure it out on my own. And while I was going through this process, I was 40 years old when I got married. Well, 3 days shy of 40, and 40 to me. Anyway, so I went shopping for dresses, and if you've ever seen, not that 40's an old woman, I'm not politically incorrect, but on the other hand, most of the young women that were shopping for wedding gowns were in their 20s. So here I am looking for a wedding gown, and nothing really sort of suited, I think, what my idea of what I should look like was. So in the end, I did have 2 dresses made, but what I did see was this opportunity to go into a business where I think a lot of people had forgotten about weddings in a way. They only do it because when they get married, they have to have a dress. And for me, I thought if I could bring fashion to wedding and a different viewpoint and do more modern dresses for girls that are more modern and more romantic for girls that are romantic and maybe a little sexier for girls who are very sexy, I thought I could bring something new. I could costume women for their weddings and suit their personalities more than just creating dresses and saying, well, here, you have to wear this. So that's sort of what started my own business.
I remember vividly that shortly after I became editor of Town & Country in 1993, we did a January issue, and it wasn't a weddings issue, which we now do twice a year, but it was a sort of a fashion portfolio. And we chose one of Vera's dresses to be on the cover. It was just after you really launched your company.
Right.
But what I remember about it was that the dress was, it had an illusion neckline, and there were all of these tiny little buttons in the back. The buttons were actually, you didn't have to,
no.
They could snap on. But we photographed the model from the back. And that was a really unusual cover because the back of that dress was so gorgeous.
I still remember it.
So remember how beautiful that was?
It was an amazing picture. It was an amazing cover. And I think that part of what I try to do when I design is to think about the clothing, not just design it, but to think about what it's supposed to accomplish. And certainly in a wedding gown, most brides are more focused on what's in front, but what they don't realize is most of their audience looks at them from behind for most of the ceremony. And then certainly while they're doing the first dance or the rest of the evening, it's more of a 360-degree angle you have to view a bride, not unlike a figure skater. And so I always thought the backs of dresses were equally, if not sometimes more important than even the front, because there's so much can happen, so much drama can happen in the back of a gown. The train, the buttons, the bows, the detailing. You know, so much can happen, and there's room for so much beauty there as well. And also, you know, all their friends and family will be looking at them from that angle. So that particular cover really expressed it all for me. I still remember it clearly.
And every time we do have a weddings issue, twice a year, we have a room which we call the fashion closet. The fashion closet is never so filled as when we have all of these wedding gowns coming in, and I don't know whether any of you saw the September issue, but there's always a moment when the editor of the magazine has to come in and look at what is about to be shot or what's being presented by the fashion department. And you know, there are racks of clothes, and it's yes, no, no, maybe, no, no, let's see, try it on her, let's see how she looks. Invariably, when we have all of these wedding gowns that are just crowding this room, I or one of the other editors will come up and say, oh my God, that's so beautiful, and it's always a Vera gown. Always
Thank you,
married.
Pamela.
And if I were to be married again, I hope I don't have to get married again, but if I were to be married again, or even renew my vows, it would definitely be in a Vera.
Thank you.
Do you ever get tired of designing wedding gowns?
I never do, because I think, because I do so many lines. I also do a line for Kohl's, which is a lifestyle-driven line. I also do my collection, which is what I sort of call demi-couture. And, you know, until recently, I had a line called Lavender. So because I work in all those different vocabularies and at all those different price points, when it comes to weddings, it's really the only place I have to create more drama. It's kind of nice to be able to flex as a designer, the drama muscles, because you think more out of the box, you think in different proportions, there's more volume, there can be more detail, because usually the dresses are more expensive than my other lines, and because of that I can put more into the clothes. And I never get tired of it, Pamela, because it actually gives me a chance to sort of go in a whole different direction, and I love that, and inevitably it affects my work elsewhere, and vice versa. So no, I feel it's a privilege in this day and age, when things are so casual, that you can actually still create dresses of that kind of imagination and joy, and it actually is worn by a woman on her wedding day. So it's kind of a very special, niche, kind of a wonderful thing that I feel very fortunate to be able to do.
We all saw the Vera's Spring-Summer 2010 collection. And one of the things that you said after, when I walked up to you to congratulate you, you said, "A lot of black, and there was a lot of black, and I think it takes an enormous amount of courage to go into the spring-summer season and not do pastels and not do prints and not do sort of gauzy things. What made you stick so closely to that hue?
Pamela is so insightful. She always asks the most interesting questions of anyone I know. And I say that honestly. I actually had planned a lot of color, and this is to show you how organic things can get. And had I been in the Hamptons, I'd probably thrown most of the fabric in the ocean. But because I was in New York City in the Garment Center, I kind of had to deal with whatever I had. And I think of the 80 to 90 fabrics we invested in, maybe 3 or 4 were sewable.
Meaning?
Meaning we had many, many fabrics that I like to experiment with fabric. I love fabrics that are unusual. It's hard to develop them. It's extremely costly. It's about weaving and finishing and things that you know, you can only really do if you're going to be doing a collection line, because you can't invest that kind of money in development unless you're looking for that kind of end product. So we had worked with all the Italian mills we work with, and we'd pick these incredible colors and finishes. And some of them, I don't even know what fibers they are. I mean, it's gone beyond nylon and polyester. It's gone to, you know, a whole new level of, you know, just engineering in mills to create these new fabrics, which are not sold at every line. They're mostly reserved because of the cost to just the collection lines. And by collection, I mean the most expensive lines in the world. And unfortunately, a lot of them were not, we couldn't sew them. The sewing machines didn't work on them. The seams didn't look right on the fabric. We didn't know how to drape it. We sometimes wash fabrics. We sometimes, no pun intended, but we sometimes have a Chinese laundry working in our offices. So we actually have laundering machines. We have like washing machines. And we'll wash fabrics, we'll garment wash them, or we'll wash the fabric before we even work with it, or we'll wash it before we work with it and then wash it again the second time. I mean, we do all this kind of development, and it's for a 9-minute show, but the point is that none of these fabrics worked. And in this economy, I felt incredibly frustrated for the 3 months I had to work on this collection, which wasn't really fully 3 months. And in the end, the last 2 weeks before the show, I threw all the fabric out. I just threw it out. I couldn't make it work. I was doing a loosely themed Orientalism Paul Poiret show, but all these really odd, insane fabrics I could not use. I couldn't even make a belt or a trim out of some of it. So I had to let it all go. And once I let it all go, suddenly the air was cleared and I saw a different path. And what felt right to me was black, but black mixed with other elements. But once I got there, I just felt that I had found my way in this collection. Now, unfortunately, in the fashion industry, in the collection business, you have to do this 4 times a year, which means it's every 10 to 12 weeks you have to come up with something extraordinary. And that's a pressure that is probably the most frustrating part of my career, is that it's hard to do. It's not the first collection you do, it's not the 30th, it's the 100th or the 200th or the whatever, to keep it fresh, to keep it interesting. And also, you know, as a businesswoman, which I have to be also, you also have to keep it on budget. And this year we sort of had a bad moment that way. You can well imagine I felt very, very irresponsible, but I also couldn't work into those fabrics. So it was really a moment that was very, very hard for me. This is one of the hardest collections I ever did. But I think, according to Pamela, she actually really loved it. So I'm very, very relieved.
One of the things about it was that you punctuated it with your costume jewelry. And the costume jewelry is something that you are increasingly known for. They're big pieces. You're wearing one of your pieces. I am too. Yeah, we have no compunction about wearing them before noon, which is nice. I mean, I would wear one of these pieces of jewelry before I would have a martini before noon. Explain a little bit about what your thinking is on the costume jewelry, because it's big, but it's light, and it's fun and fanciful.
Thank you. That's the perfect word to describe it. How it really started, like the rest of my business, was it was very organic. And I would have all these incredible swatches made of beading and, you know, more complex fabric treatments for the evening wear part of my business. And that's not a big business, but it is a business in which I dress many stars for the Oscars and for the Emmys and for the red carpet. And so we would sometimes see a wall of development of so many incredible techniques that never make it onto the runway. They just don't. They either fit in or they don't fit in. And one time I was just playing, I think it was about 5 years ago, and I just put the swatch on my chest. And I said, God, doesn't that look pretty all by itself? And I said to my assistant, let's tie some ribbon or a little bit of cloth or something and just attach it and let's look at it. And it looked so beautiful that I thought, God, a woman could wear this all on her own. She doesn't have to be sewn onto her dress. She can remove it. She can wear it with or without her dress or her suit or her T-shirt or her jeans. And the whole idea was that it was fun. It wasn't really costume jewelry in the truest sense, where it's, you know, has to be, there have to be molds made and they have to be made that way. These were just beaded swatches originally that were going to go on clothing. And suddenly we started to do them and people started to buy it. And so I sort of dubbed it a new name. Instead of, you know, costume or real or fine jewelry, which are the real categories of jewelry, meaning real platinum and diamond and 14 karat gold and 18 karat gold. And of course, costume, which everyone knows is meant to be fake, but fake in a fun way. I dubbed it fashion jewelry, what we do, because the wonderful thing about it is that it's not, sometimes it is molded, but for the most part, it's swatches that we do. And it comes out of the mood of the collection or what we're trying to convey, whether it's deco or whether it's Russian or whether it's English, whatever the mood we're feeling for the collection. In this case, it was Orientalism. It just seems to be now something that I'm very proud of because I see women in it. They don't feel they have to buy real jewelry, and I can work at a price point that you can't, and a scale you can't afford to work in real diamonds. So when I see women in it with just a T-shirt or, you know, wearing it to drinks or even wearing it to work, I'm just thrilled because it's not so much about an investment, it's about a piece of art or a piece of aesthetic, our aesthetic, that somebody embraces, that my clients embrace. So that's really how it came about.
Who is your customer? Is your customer you? Is your customer an older or younger version of you? Do you have someone in mind when you are designing?
I always have someone in my mind. And I think it would be impossible or dishonest to disavow the fact that obviously I am partially the person I designed for. I think as a woman designer, it's a very different experience than a man. Men are coming from a very abstract point of view. They're thinking of how they see a woman. And I think some of the women designers I admire the very most are women that feel what it is to be a woman in clothes. And I could cite them, you know, forever, starting with Coco Chanel. But going forward, there have been so many wonderful women designers that have been truly artists, but at the same time, truly women. And because they are that, they embody what they do and what their work is. And for me, I think I've always loved luxury. I have to admit that. I've been in the luxury business for nearly 40 years in fashion, since I'm 60, so it's pretty close to 40, maybe even counting internship, 42. But I worked also for Yves Saint Laurent when I was very young in college. So I think that for me it's not about age. It's not about age, it's about comfort. It's about style. It's about a woman who I think has a bit of an intellectual side to her. I think she wants to see something that is perhaps a little bit unusual, either in the weight of a leather or in the proportion of a necklace or in the shape of a T-shirt. It's all about nuances for me, and I think that my client hopefully appreciates that kind of thinking. And it's a love for women. I have to be very honest. I think that I'm kind of informal, but that doesn't mean I can't do formal clothing. But it's not even about the clothing, it's about the way it's worn. The way Pamela's dressed today, where she just has a simple pair of black pants on, one of my jackets, and a necklace, there's an informality to the luxury in my mind.
And yet, and by the way, I happen to love this jacket a lot. It's almost weightless. And I would just as easily wear this to a black tie event or to a cocktail party as I would this morning with just a plain pair of cotton pants. The things that I love about Vera's clothes is that they are so lightweight and so modern, and the use of different fabrics, and you're not feeling like, first of all, that if you were going on a trip that you would hesitate to bring it because it's going to throw all of the weight in the piece of luggage. People aren't thinking. I have asked far too many questions of you, so I feel like I've hogged the stage.
Ruth, everyone says that at the end of the season, it's over, but not here at Guildhall.
Not here at Guildhall. We have some of the best programming of the whole year.
Look us up, www.guildhall.org, for more information about upcoming programs. We look forward to having you here. Please escape the ordinary and experience the extraordinary right here at Guildhall.